bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there, Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door! He knocks it down!
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome, everybody. It's USL All Access on this Tuesday evening. We are opening up a new championship campaign this week. We're going to talk with the new Brooklyn head coach, the only Brooklyn men's head coach. Expansion team, a lot of excitement. Marlon LeBlanc putting the roster together from scratch. He's going to tell you about how he got the job, what he's done on the job, and what you can expect when they kick off on Sunday against Indy 11. We're going to chat about some of the business news, not digging deep into it. Plenty of the player news, digging very deep into it. A lot to chat about as we open up the season this week. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, as always. Look, Devon, I mean, it's here, man. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Where are you pulling up a chair?
Oh, my God. What hotel room am I in this week? It's never good when it's week 2 of your match day fixtures. Certainly I'm referencing my MLS schedule, and I'm already trying to figure out where I am. I will be glued to the television Friday night, I can tell you that much, to hear the sultry tones of Mike Watts, and more importantly, watching Lexington and Louisville beat the ever-living crap out of each other.
Yep, you are looking at a ton of, I wouldn't say bad blood, but it's certainly been mixed together a little bit.
Was that your first Taylor Swift reference of the year?
No, but there is a dodgeball reference in there somewhere. Not mixed together. Dev, before we get into games, which we'll chat about later, we're going to preview the Western Conference team by team. Let's hit a couple of business points right off the bat. Rhode Island was supposed to play this weekend. If you live in the Northeast like I do and don't have a palm tree outside your house like Devon does, you are well aware that it is not a very kind time to be outside in the Northeast. There's a reason Hartford tends to play their first month on the road. Not that Rhode Island really wants to hear that. The Revs and Rhode Island, so it doesn't matter level. It's just not meant to be, have postponed their fixtures for this opening weekend. Rhode Island, it means they're going to play an extra game in October. We're going to look back at that game and go, I have a feeling. Meanwhile, from the boardroom perspective, last year we spoke at length about bell tower partners coming in. It's the kind of thing that showed up on your Bloomberg terminal, if you're so inclined. More investment from private equity in the form of Weatherford Capital. Tampa-based, what's been reported by your sports business journal types is really the extent to the knowledge we have. What does it mean in the grand scheme? It means a lot of people want to put money where their mouth is in terms of growing the game. It doesn't necessarily mean that we should be sitting here going, that has a direct correlation to what you're going to see this season or what you're going to see in the CBA, as opposed to what you might see when all of a sudden there's a building spree going on ahead of USL Premier. In terms of the CBA itself, the league put out a statement. The players have many statements that they've made. Both have called it good faith. The Players Association.
Yeah, bingo. Okay.
Fair enough. No, you're fair.
Get back up on that pogo stick, China.
Yeah, the players have ultimately authorized a strike. Doesn't mean there is one. Doesn't mean there's going to be one. Again, we know enough on either side that we're going to sit this one out. That's just a show policy. Devon, do you want to be a lobster in a boiling pot, or are you going to sit that out?
No, I think you giving a black and white update on the proceedings is perfectly fine at this point in time. We talked about it on the first show of the year that we weren't going to talk about it until there was something to talk about. I'm not going to speculate on this subject. We know both parties. Again, I personally am not going to keep going back to it until we know officially where everybody stands.
Fair enough. All right, let's chat about players, not Players Association, players coming into the league. Dev, let's start with the fact Sebastian Lleget spent the last, half decade in Dallas. Monterey Bay splashing a little bit by bringing him on late in preseason.
I got to tell you, man, how many times, respectfully, do we hear things are going to be different? We're changing the culture. We're getting a new regime. We have a new identity. Here's our playing style. We have different tactics. And that crap doesn't shake itself out because you don't do the right work. You don't get the right players. You don't change your moves. And everything just kind of goes round and round and round. Basically what has gone on in Monterey for the last half decade, right? I'm going to use your terminology there. Jordan Stewart, Oliver Weiss said this is going to be different. They've changed the technical area with their supporting staff. They've changed their personnel. They've changed their relationships in the front office. Understanding that we've pre-recorded this show, I tweeted out at the time of this, front office, technical area, player personnel. Monterey Bay with the biggest turnaround of the offseason and USL Championship. Oliver and Jordan still need results. I'm paraphrasing, but massive moves made this offseason to push this organization in a much better direction. I can't wait to see what the players actually look like, putting all of this together. But they are throwing some serious coin around in every area of that team that has needed a revamp nearly since day one.
Dev, how about you hit on a couple other players that piqued your interest in this is so USL. There are big-time players that are going to supremely affect seasons that get signed officially the week of. It's a combination of waiting to see if there's a different contract offer elsewhere where they allow them to go through preseason, stay fit, and see where they land. An element of players from overseas coming in at different times, elements of just when you want to make your announcements relative to the start of contracts, which historically haven't been 12 months. But a couple guys who've stood out to you in this recent cycle.
I want to double back for a second to add the news of Sebastian Lleget, as reported by Joe Lowry, to Monterey Bay, combined with Mark Anthony Kay and Memo Rodriguez last week to Sacramento Republic. Now, Jonathan Lewis officially being signed by Lexington, and the rumor that Javane Brown is going to follow as well. 5 guys that could easily show up on an MLS roster tomorrow. I think it's the opportunity, Mike, to make an impact within the group, absolutely, immediately on the field of play. But also the ambition of clubs to continue to push the ceiling of this league in the championship and what could be the next step for them in the few years' time when USL Premier and promotion and relegation comes around. These are the type of guys they're going to give you that at 30, 31, 32 years of age, all of their experience and quality, they're going to give you that. There are interesting ones that have been picked up, like Sam Bassett. Now, Pittsburgh Riverhounds go and get Sam Bassett. For those that don't know, Mac Herman finalist. That's college's Heisman, okay? One of 3 to be named a finalist. An All-American, second-team All-American the year prior, Summit League Midfielder of the Year, back-to-back. This is a guy who dropped 50 goal contributions over 77 matches. An opportunity because he lacked confidence and game understanding at the MLS level right now. He was too in and out with Colorado Rapids and Colorado Rapids 2. Rob Vincent saw that, said, hey, we're going to go after it. We asked Rob Vincent directly, like, how is this lead up to 2028 going to look if you guys do throw your name in the hat for USL Premier? You would imagine that's exactly the type of player they would want to get. Lasse Kelp, another one, an experienced center back. UMBC transferred to Maryland last year. Mac Herman, semifinalist as a defender, Big Ten Defender of the Year, good control, good speed. Love his quality popping off of the back line, versatile in a 3 or a 4. And here's the last one for me, Mitch Budler. I understand that they go and get Nico Campuzano, in the departure of Eric Dick. Campuzano is going to be the number 1. He had a great season in Monterey, but it does remind me a little bit, Mike, of what we got out of Danny Vitiello and Tomas Gomez back in 2020. Tomas Gomez, at that point in time, you'll remember, highly regarded as one of, if not the best goalkeeper, certainly one of the most well-respected in the league. Danny Vitiello took those reins and ran with them. He now basically holds that title. Mitch Budler, a really big season. Most shutouts in Division I last year. He's good with his feet, controls the back line, very vocal, and he can play the game high up. He understands what exactly needs to take place in front of him and how to dictate that to a team. I'm not saying it's a changing of the guard because Pittsburgh got their guy, but those are a lot of pieces across the league. Really cool to see the quality that these teams have picked up.
Yep, couple other guys. Marcus Anderson goes to Brooklyn, experience with Union 2 with none other than our next guest, Marlon LeBlanc. And then Birmingham adding a guy who played for the biggest club in Nicaragua, some of the big clubs in Costa Rica, in Kadeem Cole, Costa Rican international. So should be fun to see what he does with Jay Heap's side this year. Coming up, Marlon LeBlanc, head coach for Brooklyn FC. We're going to preview the West later in the show. Get you ready for week one. It's USL All Access on Sirius XM FC.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. It's USL All Access as we prepare for week one of the championship season. And for some championship teams, that means their first game ever. Such the case for Brooklyn FC. As a New York City guy, brings me a lot of joy to welcome in Marlon LeBlanc. He's the former head coach at Philadelphia Union 2 in the championship and then MLS Next Pro. An appointment as the U.S. Under-18 head coach. I have a feeling Devon is going to be talking to him about his collegiate days, both as a player but really as a coach. A lot, if you can't tell.
Well, nobody can see it on the radio, first off. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, all right. Nice Letterman jacket. Marlon LeBlanc joins us. Coach, welcome back to the league. We're happy to have you in today and throughout the season, surely.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here. I want to thank Devon for that, wearing that Penn State jacket. Looks really good on him. I don't know if you've seen the new facility they just opened up, but Penn State's rolling with the soccer program right now.
I've certainly seen it from afar. Saddened in the sense of kind of the rebirth that Jeff Cook gave to the program, but certainly given what Rob Dow did at Vermont and everything in that program with the limited assets, national title winner outside of the, what do they call the Power Five now, the Big Five? I don't know. I'm really excited for what the future of that soccer program holds, and with his hands all over it. Should be nice.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing Rob take the program, and every coach wants to leave it and better than they found it, and Jeff certainly did that, and now we'll see if Rob can take it to the next level.
All right, Marlon, enough about Penn State because my Fordham Rams are getting no love here. Look, let's talk about Brooklyn. 3 months ago, you sign on. When's the first conversation with Brian McBride? When's the first conversation with ownership that you want to be a part of building this club from the ground up?
Yeah, believe it or not, I was in Qatar at the Under-17 World Cup watching my son play with the U.S. U17s, and that's when Brian first reached out, and we started talking. Went through the whole process while I was in the hotel in Qatar. I think like 12 hours ahead. It was kind of funny. Mike, he sends me an email saying we want to meet on like a Thursday, but for me it was like already literally Thursday morning by the time I got a chance to read the email. So it went fast, and it feels like I've spoken to Brian literally every day since. But it's been an interesting project, starting a club and starting from scratch, and literally every crevice and every nook and cranny has been built from a couple people at the beginning, and has grown rapidly over the last 8 weeks or so.
Yeah. Marlon LeBlanc, the new head coach, the only head coach in the history of expansion Brooklyn FC. When you go to the Union, and particularly with Union 2, there's a super obvious philosophy. There is a seemingly endless pool of young talent from which to pick. But it comes with different expectations. It comes with a blueprint already in place. It comes with, for the most part, YSC Academy and the Philadelphia area being your canvas from which to draw players from. This is completely different. 3 months feels like a barn burner. How did you actually put this thing together where you can put 11 on the field and hopefully another 7 on the bench on Sunday afternoon?
Let me tell you something. I've watched more Y Scout in the last 3 months than any coach has in the course of a 12-month period. I lived on Y Scout, watching videos, watching games. And you're right. One of the benefits of like a Philly is that you've got an academy and you've got the streamline of young talent coming through. And even though it's never easy to put 14, 15, 16-year-olds up against 22, 23, 24-year-olds, you still have players at your disposal. We didn't have any of that when we started here in Brooklyn. And so it's been a long journey, a long process to get to this point where we are with a roster that's ready to go and ready to compete. But I can tell you there were a lot of long nights, a lot of blue light that absolutely screwed with my brain, I think, and kept me up all hours of the evening. But yeah, we're finally here. But it's been a long journey to get to this point.
Yeah, and in terms of the roster build itself, the 14 players that had been announced by the time I sort of wrote this question, it's about 70%, 80% that have significant championship experience. Guys like Vanke Azil, who Defensive Player of the Year, Arun Basulovic, who was at Fresno when they launched, so has been through the expansion thing and everywhere in between. Just sort of describe how you wanted to have this roster in terms of experience, and then specific areas of the field that you said, if I can get this right, everything else can coalesce around it.
Yeah, I think experience was a big part of it, right? And it's probably one of the luxuries that I haven't had a whole lot of over the last 4 or 5 years in terms of roster build. Has been experience. It's been about development, but we certainly wanted to have a little bit of the taste of development to go along with that experience. And you mentioned like a young player like Van Kazil, and I say young at 31, he's in his prime, right? But I'm a big believer that players can still develop even at that age. And so taking that experience, taking our game model, seeing how players fit the game model and what we can maybe take out of that player. I can tell you right now, when you see Vanka play opening day, you're not going to think he's the same player that you saw a year ago. This young man that I like to call young man has developed and improved exponentially over the last 6 weeks. That I think a lot of these guys that are experienced guys, you're going to see a different side to them now. And a lot of it has to do with our game model and the way that we want to play. That maybe is bringing out their strengths a little bit differently than you'd seen in the past.
Marlon, I want to take a step back from the project for a second. For our listeners live, Mike alluded to it, the Penn State jacket on. Marlon's career at the collegiate level started as a player under Barry Gorman at Penn State. You then ended up as an assistant. We talked about your time at the club level with the women's team and what you did there. I just want to give people the runway here for a second of what your tenure as a coach has looked like. An assistant at Penn State, head coach of West Virginia for 14 years. Can't believe you picked Dan Strafford as a replacement, by the way. But we'll get there in a sec. Then, obviously, your time with the Union Academy, and I refuse to say Philadelphia Union 2, the artist that will always be known as Bethlehem Steel. And then the 18s most recently. That's a long tenure there in a bunch of different fun roles. You haven't had, as Mike said earlier, kind of the real say overall on everything since West Virginia in 19, all full encompassing. What has changed with the way that you've seen the game in all your time, and really since 19, compared to the way you see the game now and how your team's going to play?
Yeah, look, I think when you talk about going back to the Penn State days, I remember hitting rewind and fast forward on the VHS to watch video, right? Like that's how long ago it was that I started. But I can vividly remember, Barry telling me, can you back that up by 30 seconds and hitting rewind until you can get to it. Kind of that evolution through that time into West Virginia, into, Union 2, and really having a very different kind of job in terms of I didn't get to necessarily determine how we were going to play, who we were going to play with when I got to Union 2. And we started off, in the championship. And people don't realize we were in the USL Championship when I first started. And I've got, a wet behind the ears, Jack McGlynn and Paxton Harrison, Nathan Harriel, all these guys who have kind of evolved now. And the priority wasn't about necessarily us winning the USL Championship. It was about setting these guys up to develop further, to be first team players, and these young youth national team guys to potentially be senior national team guys down the line, and creating the best environment for them. And I think along the way, we started winning and evolving too, to the point where I think we took a very European, in particular German game model, and then, did it with a bunch of Americans who had a little bit more to give you, that weren't necessarily the perfect fits for those game models, but could grow and develop in that. To the point where now I go to the national team, and to be quite honest with you, we took a little bit of our game model of transitioning and high pressing and implemented into the national team in 2025 with our under 18 group, and did fantastic. We were unbeaten and won an event, and now here I am full circle now, having gone through doing it myself, learning a different game model for 5 years, and then learning a whole nother game model that's completely the antithesis of what I did with Philadelphia with the national team. And then now here at Brooklyn, feel like I've had the 25 years of learning growth, even up until the very end. And now I get to develop a whole new game model that's not only reflective of of who I am as a coach, but even a little bit of what we are as a community, and trying to build a team around, a little bit of what the lifestyle and the origin of what Brooklyn is as a community, and trying to make sure that comes out in our play style.
Speaking with Marlon LeBlanc, head coach of Brooklyn FC. Their inaugural season kicks off Sunday the 8th. Indy 11, Sean McCauley. You guys get to have a little fun. 3 p.m., little afternoon delight. Love that. You just talked a little bit about, what you took into the national team and how maybe it applies to your group going forward with Brooklyn FC. Was that the biggest takeaway over your 9 months spent playing style and things of that nature, or was there something else that influenced you as a manager that maybe is a little bit bigger that you take with you?
It's interesting. That's a great question, Dev. Certainly sometime with the national team, I saw a different way of maybe looking at the game. I had my own ideas coming through at West Virginia. A lot of it adopted from my time at Penn State, and then leaving West Virginia, coming to the Union, having all these brand new ideas where, we would literally have at West Virginia, I'd have my goalkeeper at midfield playing with the football. And we had these targets of like 500-600 passes a game. And I remember before I interviewed with Ernst Tanner at the Union, I was told, don't tell him that you want to have 500-600 passes a game, because that's out the window. And then, kind of coming full circle now, it's like, look, I learned so much from those styles, in particular, some transitional actions and pressing actions that I wish I would have been able to apply to my time at West Virginia. And then similar to, with the way that we wanted to build and playing with, maybe out of 4-3-3, more so than a 4-4-2 with the national team, and some things I would have done with the Union. Now I'm full circle here. With Brooklyn, and an opportunity to go the opposite direction. We can take all those things that I've learned and done and maybe apply it moving forward now. But along with that, I had an incredible experience when I did my pro license with 2022, and Mikey Varas was in that group. Wilfred Nancy was in that group.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. Even Khano Smith at Rhode Island was in that group too. And I've been able to, with as recently as Khano, just talk about the championship today versus what it was maybe, 5-6 years ago when I was there. And it's different. And he started that club, and albeit he had 9 months of a head start to do it, and I had about 6 weeks before preseason, but there were some important lessons that I could learn from him there. So there were so many things, in particular over the last like 3 or 4 years that for me that have been really, really inspirational and transitional in terms of the way I've looked at the game, and been able to take into building this club as well.
You're hearing Marlon LeBlanc, head coach for Brooklyn FC's men's team, which launches in the championship, as Devin mentioned, on Sunday. This is USL All Access. If you've missed any part of this interview, it's available on the SiriusXM app tomorrow, as well as the USL YouTube page. I can't imagine you're an ardent watcher with all the Y Scout you're doing of SEC women's soccer, but I've created a bit of a running gag within that circuit, calling those games for so many years. Arkansas is the Union Red Bull German Blitzkrieg style. South Carolina is 600 passes, death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I've been referring to the Skarkensaw scale of of game model. With that in mind, you talk about all the influences. What do you think it's actually going to look like on Sunday? What are Brooklyn fans going to see? Maybe a piece of day one, because it always takes longer than one game. But what's this supposed to look like in your dream scenario, other than a win?
So I've gotten some pictures over the last, four to 6 weeks of what it's going to look like. And to be quite honest with you, I've been pleasantly surprised with how quickly we've adapted and how well we've done so far. And without divulging too much, I think we're going to surprise some people.
Careful, Sean. Sean is listening. Sean McCauley is certainly listening, and now he's concerned.
We're pretty good, and I can say that after 26 years of being in the game. Like you know when you got a good team, and you know when you don't. And I think we've got a good team. And look, I think if you have an expectation of what we're going to look like, it's going to be. Let me rephrase that. When you watch us play, you're going to see an identity of who we are. And I think that's really, really important for any coach. And there's a lot of times you can go watch games and you have no idea what the team is trying to do, right? You watch them attack and you don't see a plan. You watch them defend, you don't see a plan. You don't have an idea. For me, you're going to watch us play and you're going to pretty much see what our identity is right from go. And that's satisfying as a coach to know that right now coming out of this preseason. We've established an identity. We are very, very tactically flexible, Mike. We can play with three up front. We can play with one up front. We could play with two up front. We built this team around a game model that was going to highlight their strengths. And it's not just about me. And I'm a square, and all these players that are around need to somehow fit into the square. That wasn't the idea when this game model was built. It was built around, okay, these are the main principles we want to have. How do we execute those principles? But then how do we, personify the strengths of and minimize the weaknesses of the group? And had we had an earlier start, perhaps the team could look a little bit different. The game model could look a little bit different. But I think one of my strengths as a coach is being able to maximize resources and essentially take what's given to you and be able to still find a way to help the players be successful. And I think in this case, though, we're way light years ahead of where I thought we would be based on the way that we've had to so quickly build this roster. But I'm excited for Sunday, and I think the fans are on day one going to be able to see an identity that this team has.
Coach, I feel like you've done an incredible job of painting the picture of what the technical area was for you guys to get those ideas, how the players have handled it, what you guys look like right now, what could be beyond. Can you maybe step into the front office for a second here? Mike talked about Brian McBride, general manager, obviously that hiring process with you. Outside of the club, you've been around this game for a long period of time in this country. We talked about your resume. Outside of Brooklyn FC, who did you maybe reach out to or lean on for guidance to help continue to push this organization in the direction that you guys want?
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned Khano, and just his experience of starting a club and somebody who started a club and went to the final in year one, and you have him as a personal friend. It was an easy one for me to go to, Dev, and have a conversation with. I think what's been really cool about everything, and Khano has had a lot of control in terms of building that roster there and building it in the mold that he wanted to. And Brian has been incredible to work with. He didn't want to sign anyone or do anything until he had his head coach in place, and that's not necessarily the case with a lot of clubs, right? There's a lot of sporting directors that will sign players and do what they want to build the team in the fashion that they want and say, here you go, coach, make it work now. Brian wanted me to have my game model and have a full say and to how it works. Of course, he had players that he was really excited about as well. And I think that has been our collaboration, which has been great. But I probably I can't tell you how many people have called me and said, let me know if you need players. And longtime friends and agents I'd never heard about also wanted to help me build my team. And somehow my cell number must have ended up on some type of website that said, call me because we're building a brand new team, because literally my WhatsApp and text messages were like off the charts, and they still continue to be. But I can't tell you how many longtime friends have reached out to me, offered support. I spoke to Mikey Varas in the very beginning because he did a similar thing in San Diego, right? It's funny how our community is really, really close. There's not too many degrees of separation in this football world, but there aren't very many people that have started a club from scratch. But the ones that have, that I know, I've certainly leaned on and taken those opportunities to get some suggestions and information from.
Marlon LeBlanc with us. Brooklyn launching their championship side on Sunday. I'd be remiss not to ask, as a New Yorker myself, it is the most crowded sporting landscape on the planet. There's over a dozen pro teams, including multiple soccer teams within the tri-state in multiple leagues. The collegiate universe is running fast and furious this time of year as well. You guys had a canary in the coal mine already in having a Super League team in the venue already. There's already sort of a match day plan. So a lot of the unknowns that many expansion teams face, you guys don't from a logistics standpoint, but from a making an impact in the community and trying to get yourselves out there in Brooklyn. I've seen some of the ads on the subways. I know there's been a concerted effort, but how do you guys sort of peek through the most crowded sporting landscape in the world?
Yeah, by the way, like people sending you a picture of those ads on the subway is kind of embarrassing, just so you know, like, oh, I saw you, and they snap a picture and they send it to me, and it's that ad with I'm in the middle of it, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I can't believe my face is on a billboard in New York City. It's cool, but it's embarrassing at the same time. Look, I'm still like, I think the big thing with football in this country is I honestly think there's a big difference between a franchise and a club. And when you've experienced club culture, you've gone overseas and you see when you go to a club and you're in Brazil and there's a pool and people are sitting next to the pool and there's maybe like tennis courts and they're playing tennis courts and there's basketball. Oh yeah. And guess what? You're talking about Botafogo, or you're talking about, a real football club. It's more than just the franchise aspect where people show up on the weekend and go to a game. And so, the other night we held like a meet the team event in Park Slope at Three's Brewing, nice little brewery on Fourth Ave between Fourth and Third, and just went and spoke to the men. There were like 80 to 90 supporters there that we went and just talked to. A handful of the players came out, like 8 or 9 players. A bunch of the staff came out, and we just got in the room, shared a couple drinks, and just talked. And I reached out. I'm a diehard Arsenal fan. I don't know where you guys sit on that, but the Brooklyn Invincibles are a massive group there too. And their president and their leadership came out and joined us. And so I'm going to try and jump in. I want to be a part of the community. I want us to somehow be adopted as Brooklyn's team, even from like the Brooklyn Invincibles, and maybe we become their US based team. But this needs to be a club. It needs to be authentic. Otherwise, Brooklyn won't care. And it can't just be another franchise that sells tickets and thinks it can be a cookie cutter club. It's not going to work in this community. So we're going to dive deep in. We've got New Yorkers on our team. That was important too for me, is people who are invested in this team. You saw we brought in, and I can say it because it's already been released, was Marcus Anderson, who I worked with in Philadelphia. It's not just a first team loanee from MLS. It's a Brooklyn native. That was important. And he needed to have a vested interest in wanting to play for this club, not just go on loan to grab minutes from a team. So, I think we're built a little bit differently in those regards. because we want to be a club of that people resonate with and can connect with, and hopefully have this groundswell that can be something that's a little bit more unique and a little bit different than just a typical franchise.
Marlon, just so that we're clear, blue and white through and through my entire life. West Omaha Soccer Club, Team Boca when I moved to Florida, my high school, you name it. We talked about Penn State. You and I bleed a different color red. If you'd kindly look up to the upper corner, Anfield reigns supreme.
Oh, no.
I know. Eventually we were going to have a disagreement. Might as well be on this show in front of the public eye. We'll smooth things out. We'll get back on track here. Mike recently became a father in the past year. I'm a father of 3 boys. I was kind of curious. There was a ton of passion when you referenced your son, Kellen, and certainly his involvement with the national team, his opportunities within the Union organization. How does being a father change you as a coach?
Yeah, especially with the age group that I got to work with in Philly, right? I have a 17-year-old son. I think for me, it's probably been, you talk about evolution as a coach, and it's probably been the greatest influence for me personally, to have a son coming through and to be able to stay modern and stay connected with the group of players that have come through. And yeah, he was the reason why we left West Virginia, to be 100% honest. Like it was, the idea was that if he was going to chase being a professional, that believed that family needed to be connected to it. And, it would do us no good to be, separate and apart. And so I've taken a lot of that in terms of that. Everybody always says they're a family with the team, but like, how is it truly a family? And where is my compassion when things don't go well? And, not being too high when things go great. And it's just been able to be steady. It's allowed me to be, I think more on par with and more level and looking eye to eye with the guys that I work with every day, more so than, I'm the gaffer and I'm above and you're going to do what I tell you. It's, for me, it's been rooted more in the process and teaching and learning for myself. I still don't have any idea what Snapchat is, 100% honest. I don't know how to work Snapchat. I don't know what the purpose of it is. But that said, like, I do feel I am at least, close enough to understanding how he thinks, what he's thinking about, what today's young player thinks about, what's important to them, and being able to take, my experience as a coach that wants to build great teams, these individuals, these young players that have so much pressure on them that want to achieve at the highest levels, being able to mold that into a family atmosphere and having the compassion that I think every coach needs today in order to get the most out of their players.
Well said. Love that. Couple rapid fire ones on the way out. It's become popular amongst the fans, kind of fun loving. There's certainly some educational ones as well. I got 5 quick ones if you're up for it.
Let's go.
Awesome. For everybody at home that doesn't know, as much as we've talked about the blue and white, certainly Penn State, the roots that have grown from Marlon to his family, certainly that has spread through the Kerr family as well. The Berkey Creamery is the greatest ice cream on the planet. You can at me, you can say whatever you want. There is nothing better. Everybody that's been there, you just call it the Creamery. So I got to know, you go back and visit State College. What's your favorite flavor at the Creamery if you have one?
I got to be honest with you. I'm a plain vanilla guy.
Easy.
I've always have been. I hate chocolate. So there's nothing that's ever chocolate that gets to me. But I'm glad that you did refer to it as us old timers call it just the Creamery. We 100%. Didn't have a name on it. It's just the Creamery, but I'm a plain vanilla guy.
If I said Berkey Creamery in front of those psychotic squirrels that sit outside, no one would ever know what we're talking about. My mom, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her favorite. She's a Peachy Paterno girl. I'm a cookies and cream guy. Got to get that on the show. We'll switch to the footballing world. There's, most recently changes that came from MLS Next Pro that IFAB adopted. Injury rule, right? Time substitutions. I'm curious. It could be that one that just happened, but is there any other rule that doesn't exist right now or that used to exist that you'd like to be implemented in the modern game?
Well, interestingly enough, myself and John wasn't a coach at the time. We were on that committee, that rules committee that implemented those rules in MLS Next Pro. Are there any other rules? I think I'm still a little bit of a traditionalist in getting I was the only coach. John was an administrator for St. Louis City when he was on that committee. I was only coach on that committee. who said, like, let's go slow with this and really really look at it. It was a great idea. It did result in what we wanted it to result in, which was more football being played on the field. Any other new rules? I don't know if there's. I'd like to see this happen at the World Cup, which is going to happen at the World Cup, and see how the players take to it. It took, I remember in MLS when they first put it in MLS, and there was a little bit of a kickback that we were screwing with the game too much. But I do like these two rules. I think it's had the desired effect that fans want, and more football being played. But I'd have to think about that one, Dev. I don't know what else I'd like to see.
You're good. I think that's enough because I agree with you. I think it's a fun rule that's been cool to see grow over the years. And to your point, what better way to see a response than the biggest tournament in any sport globally?
Yeah.
I'm with you. We've referenced certainly your Philadelphia roots. But the native in you is a New Yorker, right? And you're back there with Brooklyn. Chopped cheese or Philly cheesesteak? Which one?
Still Philly cheesesteak. I'm sorry. Like
I want to apologize.
a real Philly cheesesteak just absolutely kicks ass. I'm sorry. It's so
Best
bad.
one you've ever had from where? Or favorite that you like
Oh
to go
my
to?
God,
Your
I've had
go-to
so
spot?
many. That's another one I have to. I'm not going to go public with that answer because that could get me in trouble.
It's the
I,
smartest response we've gotten.
yeah, I still spend too much time in Philly that I'd have to go back and face people. So I got to be careful with how I answer that question.
You're good. Rob Vincent for the Riverhounds admitted that he had never had a Philly cheesesteak. So given the fact
Ooh,
that he played there and he's the manager, I think he's probably walking on thin ice.
yeah.
um, Again, going through your background and most recently with the national team, people know them or not. Who are maybe one or two up and coming players at any level that you think people should keep an eye on?
Oh wow. Hey, I mean, one of my favorite guys in that group was Justin Ellis, who just got a first team contract
Yep.
with Orlando
Orlando.
City. Justin's a player, let me tell you. He can play the nine, he can play the 10. Absolutely outstanding. That team was, look, we there's no mistaking the fact that Kane Rizvanovic is now with me here, the goalkeeper from
Yep.
that group that beat Portugal in the final at the UEFA Friendship Cup that we won. So Kane's a very, very good goalkeeper that you're going to see coming through. But that team was Dom Chong-Wei at Atlanta United. Santiago Morales just scored for Miami last week in their Champions Cup game. Who else? Marvin Dills at Eintracht Frankfurt has broken through and gotten some time with their first team. And that was his kind of debut with the U.S. youth national teams. Drew Baera just made his debut with NYCFC as well. He was a fullback on that team. I had guys like Neil Pierre, who obviously I knew from his time at Philly.
Yep.
I mean, Colin Gusky just got his start with
First team.
Orlando
Yep.
City
Orlando.
first team. All those guys were in that group, and there's so many names of good players. Danny Pinter just got signed to the first team at Inter Miami, and was a little bit under the radar. He's not anymore. Jaden Contreras just got a first team contract. Irvin Torres just got a first team contract with Austin. It was an interesting age group to have because these guys were on the cusp. Either at the bottom of the first team roster, or just kind of breaking into the first team. And, I got him at a really cool point in time, and it's great to see so many of them kind of moving forward. Snyder Burnell, who's done fantastic with Seattle. I'm probably leaving some guys out, but there's some good ones that are coming through.
Safe to say that footballing fans at home aren't at a lack for opportunity to witness what is the growth of the game in this country, with some really cool players up and coming. Last one before we let you go. I know we're going to cross some enemy lines here. This is all in good fun. Eastern, Western Conference, answer as best you see fit. You could coach one other team in the championship. Who would it be and why?
Ooh, wow. Wow, wow, wow.
I know you're going to be off someone's Christmas list.
Got to be one of your best questions ever. I mean, whew, it's you look at what Danny's got at Louisville, and you can't help but wonder what it's like to have that kind of a budget to go after whatever player you want. Even now, you look at Lexington. Oh my goodness, they're spending some money, right? How much fun that's got to be. That's like
Could also be a passion project where a team's up and maybe you want to help continue to push it, right? Like, and it's not one of the title contenders every year.
So, it's like, look, I'm on that new club now, right? That this in a lot of ways, is for me, I took this project because it was something that I'd never done before. That in a lot of ways, this is, I don't want to call it a passion project, but it was like an inspirational project. Like, how often does a coach get to say they started a club from scratch? So like I'm doing that. So like the other end of it is like your big budget teams, and if you could go out and just pick every player you want to just fit the way you want to play, that would be kind of cool too. I would say it would be I've never been at the big budget kind of club, I mean, I was an assistant at Penn State, but that was, before we had Jeffrey Field was bleachers. It was like an erector set of bleachers, same as Beaver Stadium, right? And right when they kind of started to build the stadium was when I was finishing up there. West Virginia was, it was West Virginia, not exactly known for football. And we grew that program from being not necessarily a traditional power into then being a consistent top 25, and Dan's taken it to another level. Philadelphia is known for being the most economically one of the most thriftful clubs in all of MLS. It's either, if not the lowest salary, then second to third lowest salary teams. And here I am now in my next project at Brooklyn with a brand new startup. So I would say it'd be interesting to be able to shop for players the way some of the big clubs do, and to see what that would look like to put together. But that's never been my forte, is not necessarily having all the financial weapons as some of my peers, and still found a way to make it work. And but that would be something that would be, I think, at least interesting to try out.
Unlike Snapchat, this interview does not disappear tomorrow. If you missed any part of it, it's available on the SiriusXM app. It's also available on the USL YouTube page in its entirety tomorrow as well. Marlon, we're so excited for you to get going with the 30-game season and Prinks Cup and Open Cup, and it's all going to be rapid fire, but we can't wait to see what you and your group do in Brooklyn, and wishing you guys good health and all the best.
Mike, Dev, thanks for having me on. Just parting comment, Dev, I don't know if you turned the camera so that Liverpool shoe could fit in to the screen. Everything was going great until I saw there it is. Okay, until that part came in. But no, thanks guys. It was great, and looking forward to talking to you some more during the season.
For everybody departing us, the biggest takeaway he said was he loves the direction the club is heading, and they are going to bottle it. In fact, Arsenal by the end of the season. So no worries, Marlon. Best of luck to the Gunners.
Thanks, guys.
Look forward to seeing Man City lift the trophy. All right, that's Marlon LeBlanc on the other side of the break. We get you ready for week 1 in the championship. Next on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. USL All Access on this Tuesday evening. Miss any part of that great interview, or you can catch the full edition of the interview. We actually had to cut about 10 minutes of great content just to fit the show in with Marlon LeBlanc. It's available on the USL YouTube page tomorrow. All right, Dev, let's chat about the Western Conference. 25-team league. It means one side gets the short end of the stick. 12 in the West, which means you have a 2/3 proposition, one fewer team to try and get into the playoffs. 8, of course, will go from each conference. We're going to go alphabetically through. Colorado Springs, completely different. They only by 1 point got in over Lexington into 8th. And then out in the quarterfinal against Tulsa, Alan McCann is now the head coach. Chambo is out. That whole front office got cleaned out. They're going to look similar in overarching, very different in terms of personnel and who's leading it.
Certainly, what sort of tactics is Alan McCann going to take after? They shared a lot of very similar thoughts. James Chambers, Alan McCann, and, of course, Stevie Hogan. Brendan Burke involved in that conversation as well. But coming off of it, very prototypical, sit a 4-back system, single or double pivot, and how you work off of it. I see a lot of speed that was added in the offseason. Certainly Colin Shuttler in goal. They've needed help there for really the last 2.5 years. Feels like that could be the guy. Colin Shuttler coming off of a career year in Orange County. Love that pickup. But regardless of who's in, who's out, I still go back to leading the line, the belief in the locker room, guys that have been part of 2 or 3 regimes now and an understanding of what this is going to look like, that you're going to have to earn trust from the manager and vice versa. The manager's going to have to earn trust from them. But I do like the moves they've made so far.
How about El Paso? 41 points. You could argue half the year they didn't stop a nosebleed, allowed 45 goals, but finished fourth, out late in pens against Phoenix in the playoffs. Junior Gonzalez comes in, which should sound familiar because he's replacing Wilmer Cabrera, who he replaced at RGV. Rubio, Rubin, big name. Abramero in goal, big name. Alex Mendez from Tampa. Carl Saint comes in from Phoenix. They lose Andy Cabrera, which, if you're going to get rid of Wilmer, was probably going to happen.
Yeah. Don't necessarily think everybody wanted him to show up in the Eastern Conference with the Battery, to be fair. But the Battery just lost all their goals, right? So they had to do something. Listen, understand that for El Paso Locomotive, the players that they've brought in, I'm not going to go specific year because it is about the manager and Junior. Junior's about control. He's aggressive, for sure, but he wants the player relatability aspect within the group. He wants to be the player's manager. They can come and talk to him, but he wants control within matches. He will chase you. He will make you feel uncomfortable. You are going to have to play his way. So there is adaptability within it, but Junior Gonzalez has always been, while playing the hand that was dealt to him by the organization he worked for, always wanted to be aggressive while still having control. I would expect to see the same from El Paso Locomotive. And most importantly, defensively organized. They haven't been good enough with that the past couple of seasons.
All right, Las Vegas, first full year under Devin Rensing. The numbers weren't great at the end of last year, but that was kind of find your foxhole guy kind of situation for him. Look, these are all league vet who you know can perform, right? Arteaga, Ibarra, Mines, Guillen, Ofimu, Buana, and then Jared Mazzola finally looks like he's going to get his shot to be a number one.
You know what I love about all the guys that were brought in, and I mean this in the nicest of ways? He's dumbed the game down a little bit. I mean that with Ben Mines, with Ofemu, certainly with Aaron Guillen on the back line. Like, these are guys who are system guys who do their job. And if you look at the stops prior, under Neil Collins, what you got in Rhode Island, there's flexibility of the playing style, but it's very much, this is your position. I need you to go A to B to B to C. I see a lot more control within this group than Las Vegas had. We already saw that under Devin Rensing towards the tail end of the year. But there's grit, too. Mark Ibarra will break things up within the midfield. Manuel Arteaga, I don't know if we're going to see the days when he was ripping and roaring at Phoenix, but he's certainly got fire, and it felt like that locker room has lacked it the past couple of seasons.
All right, meanwhile, staying in the Western Conference preview here, Lexington has perennially disappointed with a budget that should compete for Shields. They finished 1 point out from 8th place. They finished just 4 points out from 5th place. Last year, that's how tight it was. Goodrum, Malloy, Ordonez, all major award winners in the championship. Felipe, Blaine Ferry, Ali Zemla. They splashed again. Are they going to get over the line?
Yeah, I hate doing this because getting yelled at more on social media is not exactly my cup of tea for a good time. But I wrote the ambition, activity, and second year from USL Championship squad Lexington SC, is unreal. Easily splashed the most cash in the transfer market over the last 18 months. Every level has gotten better. The names on this roster suggest title or bust. This cannot be a team that's sitting at 8th. This cannot be a team that's sitting at 9th. The talent that is on the roster has to be a top 4 team. It is that simple for Lexington.
Monterey Bay, full year 2 for Jordan Stewart. We already spoke a little bit about the move they just made with Sebastian Lleget. They've always faded late. They're always competitive to the middle of the summer, and then they don't have the depth. Stuart Ritchie won the double at Knoxville. Eduardo Blancas comes in from Alta. Nick Ross is a guy who's been around the block in nearby Sacramento. Zach Farnsworth at RSL, all big names coming in.
The relationships, remember that you're going to get both south of the border and abroad with Schalke and with Pumas. Help me, I'm there, right? Yes. Sorry, brain is a little bit off. Apologies. It is 100% about depth for Monterey Bay. They've always had a roster that had 6 or 7 starters and then guys would go down, couldn't keep pace. Now you're looking at a squad that can carry 14 into a match day, and you're trying to figure out who's going to be penciled into a lineup. That's the kind of competition that they've created in the offseason. They've got quality every level. They can control within this game. They can open things up. There's good attacking at outside backs. You've got a striker. This is a playoff-built team that finally has the ability to have backing when things get a little bit tough.
You were in the right neck of the woods in Mexico. Pachuca.
I knew it too. Pachuca's got a better youth system. Sorry, guys. That's
hey, I'm just saying. New Mexico. Dennis Sanchez is the human embodiment of magic. Takes them to 48. 48 points, conference final. Beat San Antonio and Orange County along the way. Last 2 years, he talked about building it as he flew it. Jafal, Rosarena, Malik Howell, Kip Keller, Jake LaCava hopefully finds his form again. These are his fingerprints.
You know, there are two things with the players brought in and the desire of what I want to see out of New Mexico United and Dennis Sanchez's squad this year. The first one is going to be the aggression going into the final third. We haven't seen that. We saw it with Las Vegas. Now, a lot of that, to be fair, was from Valentin Noel driving the ship. You're going to get a little bit more out of that from the outside backs this year. Malik Howell's certainly going to be involved in that. But as they drive numbers forward, I need a commitment in the midfield and up top. So whether players are already on the roster, Mike, or you want to throw Sofiane Jafal's name into it, or you want to bring Jake LaCava in, numbers got to come high, and they got to be at plenty. And they need to be more flexible within matches, less stubborn, more specifically. The game is going to have twists and turns, and you can't always do it your way. That's okay. Being adaptable under Dennis Sanchez is important because when it does go south, you've got to adjust. And they didn't do that well enough last year. It cost them points, certainly cost them in the playoffs. But it does feel like the type of team, and certainly the manager that we have such high regard for, that has the ability to make a deep playoff run.
All right, time is short here. Let's chat Western Conference still. Oakland finished 10th. In comes Ryan Martin. McCabe, Tingy, Velo go cross-country with him. They did manage to keep Peter Wilson, of course.
Oakland, are we talking about the fact that Oakland's not in a position to be a top 4 team? Of course they are. I said last week that one of the teams that I'm most excited to see in the biggest turnarounds with the Tampa Bay Rowdies, I threw Oakland roots in there as well. This is a team that has had an identity shaken multiple times to its core. Ryan Martin has brought in workers, ball winners, controllers of the game, but he also will throw numbers going forward. It's probably the biggest change that we've seen out of Ryan Martin, understanding it was at Loudoun last year compared to previous seasons where not only did he have the quality to be able to do it, Mike, he had depth. Ryan Martin has brought in guys that are going to chase the game. And Oakland has been aggressive high. They've been aggressive low, in the middle. We've never seen a real complement throughout the roster that gives them the ability to consistently do it at every level of the field. That's what Ryan Martin has done in the offseason.
Orange County finished 7th last year. That earned them a trip to Sacramento, and then the shocking upset over the Republic. Colin Shuttler, we mentioned earlier, off to Colorado Springs. Cameron Dunbar is gone. Bryce Jamison goes to the Rapids. Some quality names on the way out. A lot of young talent coming in.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here is they are always going to be aggressive and aren't shy from giving opportunity to young players. It does feel like Danny Stone lost a lot, though. Colin Shuttler, we mentioned him, the great year that he had in goal. He departs. Do you fill his shoes? Do you have enough in terms of first-team players to actually be able to challenge the playoff line? Right now, I say no. That's not saying that I don't think they're capable of it. That's saying they've gone really, really young this year and maybe a bit too ambitious for my liking at this point in time.
Phoenix, 40 points, missed a home playoff game by a singular point. They were out in the semi against Tulsa. Perhaps ironic, they finished with 210 minutes scoreless, only to give up the late goal to Lukic against Tulsa to get knocked out of the playoffs. If they stayed healthy at center back, they were a home playoff team last year. I expect Pamo Duka to have them in the same place.
Yeah, they've got to be better on the width and up high, man. I liked what I saw within the midfield. I certainly liked what I saw on the back line, the flexibility within those two groups. I didn't see enough on the front line. I don't see enough right now. I can tell you, at least from what I've heard, there are a couple of moving pieces behind the scenes that seems like the attack might be bolstered. I say that with an asterisk. But it's Pamo Duka, right? Like we were high on Phoenix. They got a little bit banged up, but they were a team that always felt like they could beat the number one team in the league, and that if they were on their off day, that they could lose to the 13th position team in the standings. It's a very similar conversation right now. This is one of those ones where, like, you tell me they finished second, okay, and you tell me that they didn't add enough and they got banged up and finished in 10th. I could see that too.
Yeah. We talked about Sacramento a ton last week with Mark Anthony K and Memo Rodriguez. Go back and look, but 27 goals allowed, fewest in the West, out in the quarters to Orange County. San Antonio, that great blistering start, ended up in 6th, out in the quarters to New Mexico. Madronda, La Cava, Gomez, Osorio, all on the way out.
Yeah, the sum of its parts, right? Backline and midfield, you're good with it. Can you get an attack? You and I had the opportunity to experience this team in the, I believe it was 4th or 5th match of the season for our CBS game last year. I said I see everything within this group except the final third. My comments still stand. Unless they start to change our minds right now, they're exactly where they left off.
And then Tulsa, heavy the head that wears the crown because your best player is going to get poached. They got their money for Taylor Calhara from Kansas City. The opportunity for the player. Peñaranda goes. DeLu goes. Arthur Rogers goes. Bruno Lapa comes back to the league from Korea. Alex Timbakis, obvious what he's done in the league. Tristan Henry in Phoenix. Raheem Summersall, one of the players from North Carolina, as they disband. They will be similarly competitive.
I like the pickup, bringing Summersall in. What's up? I'm Bruno. You and I can both agree that one thing the team did not have was a lot of chance creation within the engine room. Defensively, they were stout. They were tight lines. They exploded going forward. We saw a lot on the width, and certainly up high. They're going to miss Taylor Calhara. I like the addition of Bruno Lapa. I need to know where the goals are coming from.
All right, coming back in a moment. What's the game you cannot miss this week? Devin ponders and answers after this. USL All Access, Sirius XM FC.
Welcome back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. USL All Access. The championship season kicks off on Friday. Louisville-Lexington. That might well be the game of the weekend. You can catch matches here on the channel throughout the season, as well as on ESPN+, local TV across the country, CBS Sports Network, ESPN2, Golasso Network. Check USLChampionship.com for the latest. All right, Dev. It's Louisville-Lexington, right? The game that you can't miss this week. Maybe pick one per conference, whatever makes your heart grow 5 sizes.
I'm not picking that game, believe it or not. I know people at home are going to hate me. Yeah, listen, on paper, everybody loves the names. There's the rivalry. I'll bookend the weekend for you. At least I'm gonna move it in on a Saturday night. I'm taking the Charleston-Pittsburgh game. I want to see what Cabrera can do within a new-look attack for Ben Pierman, a new-look back line. Pittsburgh's going to have a similar conversation. Suber's gone, right? He makes his way
Dick
out.
is gone.
Yep, Eric Dick is gone. But they've got a lot of firepower for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds now. So that's the game that I'm interested in most to start. And then I'm going to finish it with the Monterey-Oakland conversation. Radical offseason for both of them. Ryan Martin comes into Oakland. We just talked about what his grouping is: control, aggression. Monterey Bay, from a changeover and personnel and people, we know it's a big move. I want to see it take shape on the field now, and I don't know what that's going to be just yet. So that's a fun one.
Devin, did you learn anything this week?
I learned that I could wear a sweater vest in my studio, or at least a zip-up sweater, and not sweat. Get it?
Good for you.
Don't sweat the little small things, Mike. See what I did there? I have 3 kids.
Yep, well done. And I learned from Marlon LeBlanc, good things do happen in Qatar, like getting the call to take the Brooklyn job. All right, next week, we recap the games. We get you ready for week 2. It's USL All Access. Have a great week, everybody.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.